Hi everyone, it's Nicole Steele of the Joyful Stamper. I'm the owner and designer of it, and I'm also an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And every Saturday, I film a video using a sketch from Splitcoaststampers' weekly sketch challenge, and I put it on my blog, thejoyfulstamper.com. And the point is to show you how you can be inspired by a sketch. And, stamping doesn't have to be complicated. Anyone can do this, and a sketch is a fabulous place to start. I almost always start with a sketch. But I also put the written instructions on my blog also because I know some people like to follow the written word rather than a video. But I also have this video too for those that are more visual learners. And I want to show you how fun stamping can be and show you that you can do it. It doesn't have to be complicated, and I am here to help you in any way I can. So I wanted a bright and cheerful card for this week's sketch. So I turned to the Ornate Garden Designer Series paper from the Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog, and I'm also going to be using the Free as a Bird stamp set. I just love the birds in there, and I thought I haven't been giving this set a whole lot of love lately. So I took a break from Christmas cards and decided to play with some happy colors. So let's get started. I'll keep my card off to the side there as a reference. All right, I have my pieces all cut ahead of time. And today I'm gonna stamp the envelope too because often we forget that part. You wanna send out this beautiful card you made. Well, it should arrive in style too, right? This is Bumblebee. This is one of our new in colors this year, and it's going to stick around till 2022. This is your standard, what's called an A2 card. An A2 card is 5.5 by 8.5 inches. It's half a sheet of cardstock, and I have scored it down the middle at 4.25 inches. That just breaks down the fibers in this cardstock so that I can fold it without the paper cracking. So it's just nice, neat, simple, and clean. All right, so that's our card base. The next thing we are going to do is glue our Ornate Garden Designer Series paper to this piece of Old Olive. The Old Olive is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 of an inch. This is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Don't worry about writing these measurements down. Like I said, I have a written tutorial on my blog, thejoyfulstamper.com. You can go and pin it, you can print it, you can save it on your computer, however you want to enjoy it. Isn't the back side of this pretty? That's gold foil. I actually made a card a while back where I colored this in with Stampin' Blends markers. And I was quite happy with it. So I'm going to glue this piece of Ornate Garden Designer Series paper. And Designer Series paper is just Stampin' Up's term for pattern paper. All right, I'm gluing it to the Old Olive cardstock. And I'm going to now glue it to my Bumblebee card base, and I'm just using multi-purpose liquid glue for this. I like to use the liquid glue for a lot of my paper crafting projects because it's economical. You can see you don't have to use very much, so a bottle lasts you a very long time, and it's not very expensive either. And that's gonna get glued to my card base, just like this. Okay, and now we're gonna get to the heart of the card. We're gonna do all the pretties now. All right, so I am actually I'm gonna do all the die cutting first and save the stamping for afterwards. So let me set aside the pieces that I do not need, and I will bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. This is the workhorse of my stamp room. And then I'm gonna bring in my cutting plates. Okay, so since I'm going to be die cutting, I'm going to put down, make me do this so I'm in the camera. Our plates are numbered, so you want the number 1 base plate, and then I'm going to put in the number 2 thin die adapter plate, and then the first of 2 number 3 plates. Okay, and I am going to die cut this circle, and what I'm going to use to die cut that is the Layering Circles dies, and I'm using this circle right here. I believe it's the 4th largest one. And I'll put that on a piece of Whisper White cardstock. The other thing I'm going to do is take a piece of terracotta tile cardstock, and I'm going to grab my Painted Labels die set, and I'm going to use this pretty decorative edge one right here, and I'm going to die cut that. And the last die that I'm going to use, and this is going to be on cinnamon cider cardstock. This cinnamon cider cardstock is such a beautiful warm color. I thought this die from the Painted Labels dies looked like a bird's nest, so I thought it would be perfect for this card. So I'm going to die cut that from cinnamon cider cardstock. Oop, and I moved that, so let me readjust that. My pieces here. Okay, now I'll take my second number 3 plate and I'm going to put it on top of all of this. This is what we call a sandwich, a die cutting machine sandwich. So a sandwich is just the combination of all the plates that we're using to either die cut or emboss our images. Now my machine is sliding around because I have it on a stack of paper, but there are rubber grip feet on the bottom of this so that it doesn't move when you have it on your desk surface. Okay. All right, I've got my circle. Take the other dies off. Just gonna peel them right off of my plate here. Okay, and if you have a little piercer tool, you can go ahead and just poke all those little pieces out. The nice thing about this Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine is one pass through and it gets all those little pieces cut out, which some die cutting machines don't do that. You have to run them through multiple times, or there was a dryer sheet trick that I used to use with my old machine. And I don't have to do that anymore, so that's really nice. Now I'm bringing in an extra piece of Whisper White because I'm going to stamp my greeting on this also. So in terracotta tile ink, I'm going to stamp this sweet little bird, and he's going to get stamped right on that circle. So I'm going to ink him up, and I'm going to put him right on here. Now part of his tail will hang off. That's okay. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And one little thing I'm going to do is, just to make this circle have more interest, I'm going to take a stamping sponge. Now these stamping sponges, they come in a big circle like this, but I cut mine into anywhere between 4 and 8 pieces with just a regular pair of scissors. You can use your paper snips, and you will get so many more pieces of the Stampin' Sponge when you do it that way. And it also makes it easier to hold. You can see I make tabs for mine. This is an old Stampin' Up color called Cameo Coral. It retired. I'm using it with terracotta tile. So I went around the edges. Now what I'm going to do is I want to brush a little bit more closer to that bird. So I'm going to take my sponge and I'm just going to lightly brush it all along there, just like this. And I'm turning the circle as I do that. And it's just adding a little bit more terracotta tile closer to that bird to highlight the cutie patootie bird a little bit more. All right, I'm done with the sponge. I'll set that aside. And the next thing I'm going to do is stamp my greeting. And I'm going to do that in Old Olive ink. The world needs more of you. How many people do you know that you could say that about, right? I can think of a lot of people I could send this card to. I'm also going to stamp this branch image twice on a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock. And now I'm going to take a blender pen. These come in a pack of 3 and there's a tip on either end. And I'm going to just uncap any end you want. And you can use them to color your stamp images. And you don't have to have a blender pen for each Stampin' Up color. To clean them in between ink pads, you can just scribble on a piece of scratch paper until the tip runs clear, and then you're good to go with switching to another color. I'm going to fill this in with Old Olive ink. I have a piece of scratch paper nearby, and I'm just going to test, make sure that all the color's off from my previous project. Then I'm going to touch the tip to this ink pad, and I'm going to just light flicks. The reason I'm doing light flicks is because if you go back and forth with a blender pen, your paper will actually start to do something what's called pilling. You'll see the little fibers of the cardstock just ball up like a sweater pills. And we don't want that look. We don't want that look. So I'm just lightly going over this with my blender pen. And if I go out of the lines, it's okay. because I'm going to use my paper snips to cut this out. There is no die set that will cut this particular image from Phrase a Bird out. That's okay though, because it isn't hard to cut it out with the paper snips. I'm just cutting the stem, and then you can just scribble, like I said, on your sheet, and now I can use it for another color if I want to. All right, we're done with that, and now we're going to cut these stems out. All right, these paper, I'll tell you what, the paper snips, I talked about the Stampin' Cut and Emboss being the workhorse of my stamp room. Well, really, I don't have a room, I have a desk. I have a corner of the family room. My paper snips would be the second most often used tool on my desk. I use them for distressing the edges of cardstock. I use them for getting into tight spots when I'm cutting images. I use them even to cut ribbon and twine because they are that sharp. They're sharp all the way down to the tip. And that's what makes them so nice. Plus they're small, so they're easy to handle and maneuver around things like this. I find this really relaxing to cut these out. And now we have the second one here. I first started stamping about 20 years ago. I was a scrapbooker first, and then my sister-in-law introduced me to using alphabet stamps in my scrapbooks, and I thought, whoa, I don't have to buy any stickers anymore. This is amazing. And then I thought, okay, I don't have to go to the store to buy cards anymore. I can make these beautiful cards, and I can have them say whatever I want them to say. I'm not limited by what the store has already printed for me, and it was a lot less expensive than $5 to $7 to $10 for a card that didn't even really reflect me and what I wanted to say, right? So that's how I got into card making. And then I signed up as a Stampin' Up demonstrator because I wanted a discount on all my products. And lo and behold, here I am doing this as my full-time job. Although, when you're having fun, it's not really work or a job, right? Okay, so the world needs more of you. I'm going to tear along the top of this because I just think it looks pretty. You know, simple cards don't have to be boring. There are so many ways to add little details to them. And paper tearing would be one of them, for sure. Okay, I'm going to glue this piece down right underneath it like that. I just wanted something a little decorative for the bottom of that sentiment there. And I'm using liquid glue. And I'm going to put that piece down. And I'm going to set that aside to dry. And I'm going to glue these leaves onto my sweet little bird here. And I'm going to use liquid glue again. And I want him to just look like he's nestled amongst these leaves on a tree. So I'm going to have them going this way, just like that. I like this. I like this. I see one little detail I left out. His beak. I want to color. I want to color in his beak a little bit. So I'm dipping my blender pen into the terracotta tile ink pad and just coloring that in. But you don't have to do that. It's your card. You can make it whatever you want to make it. All right. Next I'm going to pop this onto here with Stampin' Dimensionals. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to glue it on with liquid glue. Right onto here. I really like how this die cut piece looks like a nest. And the thing is, it's from the Painted Labels die set, which coordinates with, was it the Painted Poppies stamp set in the annual catalog, but it works perfect for this card. Okay, now I'm bringing my card base back in, and we're gonna use this terracotta tile ribbon. This ribbon is part of the Ornate Garden ribbon combo pack, so you get the spool in Old Olive and terracotta tile. We're using terracotta tile. I'm gonna punch a hole right to the upper left of this bird. And I'm just using a standard hole punch. This, you know, you can get these at any office supply store. Okay. And I'm going to wrap this ribbon around my card. We're going to tie it in a bow. And make sure I get enough ribbon here. I want to make sure that I have enough to tie this bow. Okay, hopefully that's enough because, you know, I didn't measure how long it was on my original card. I'm going to put some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of this. Now you may be wondering, but I'm not going to take the liner paper off yet though, because I don't want this to stick to my card. I want to be able to adjust it according to how the ribbon is or where I need the ribbon to go. So I'm going to bring the two ends of the ribbon together and I'm going to slip them through this hole right here. Now, if you need that hole to be bigger, go ahead and double it up with your hole punch. That's fine. Now you might go, be asking me, why didn't you just stick this bird piece right on top of the ribbon and tie the bow? The reason is I didn't want the bow all the way up here. I wanted it in this white, blank white area. This blank white area looked empty to me. And so that is why I punched a hole so I could bring the ribbon up through and have the bow fill that white space. Now, if you like that white space, by all means, go ahead and just leave it be. Now, I'm going to pull this a little bit tighter. I want to stick my bird down right there. And now I'm going to go ahead and tie this into a bow. So I'm tying in a knot first so I can secure it in place. The number one question I get asked is about tying bows. And my answer is I fuss with them. That's my answer. I will fuss with them until I get them the way I want them to look. So, and I don't want this one this big, so I'm going to tie it a little bit smaller. There we go. And then I'm going to trim the edges. There we go. Now I'm actually going to save these pieces. I'm not going to throw them out because you can actually take them and just fold them in half like this and put a mini glue dot on the end, and you can use them as little elements. So if you had, like, say, a card with flowers on it and you wanted to, to tuck something into the little bouquet, you can fold this in half and just tuck it under there and have them coming out the edges like that. And it's really pretty. I have an example in one of my monthly creativity kits. I had a bonus idea with that, but I thought I'd share it with you too. All right, so this is going to get glued down with liquid glue. And I'm going to put it right there. Okay, adjust that ribbon a little bit. I see that's not straight. There we go. And the last little finishing detail on this card is to put some pearls right there. And I'm going to use the medium-sized pearls. I'm using an old paper piercer Stampin' Up used to sell to easily apply these pearls. The modern version, the current version of it, or what we sell in the annual catalog right now, is called the Take Your Pick tool, and it actually has more than just the piercer. It has several other tools on it also, so it's a little more multi-functional. Okay, now let's stamp our card so that we can finish this project. All right, I'm just going to bring back my terracotta tile ink, and I'm going to stamp my little bird right on the front of my card, or my envelope here. And I'm checking to make sure my envelope is the right way, because several times I have stamped my images upside down on my envelope. No joke. No joke. Now I want to bring in some other images here. So there's some sweet little flowers here. I'm going to take this one and let me grab a block of the proper size. That'll work. And I'm going to put a flower right in the middle of the flap, just like that. And I'm going to bring back my old olive ink pad so that I could stamp some of those leaf images around my bird on the bottom and front of the card. And I'm just gonna fill it in. Okay. And that is our Saturday sketch card. And again, you can go to my blog, thejoyfulstamper.com, to print out the written instructions for this. You can also shop my store for the supplies for this. I have an easy link to just shop the project for everything I used to make this card. And my store is shopwithnicole.stampinup.net. And if you would subscribe to my YouTube video and hit the bell so that you're always notified when I publish a new video, I would really appreciate it. So thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I hope you had fun, and I hope I'm making stamping enjoyable for you. All right, I will see you next Saturday. Bye.